On Saturday, June 6th, the Columbia County Historical Society will be holding its first Columbians celebration at the Lukas Van Alen House in Kinderhook. ccSCOOP spoke with Ann-Eliza Lewis, Executive Director of the Historical Society, and Ruth Piwonka, County Chair for the Quadricentennial, about the first Columbians event and how the Historical Society is participating in the Quadricentennial celebration.
First Columbians is the Columbia County Historical Society's primary benefit, and it's an annual event. This year we're having our 15th annual First Columbians celebration, and it moves from year to year. And this year, in honor of the Quadricentennial, we thought it would be best to host it right on one of our own properties, the Lukas Van Alen House, which is this National Historic Landmark gem of a property right in Kinderhook. And for the Quadricentennial, we thought it would be important to talk about the Dutch heritage here. Even though Henry Hudson wasn't Dutch, it certainly was the beginning of that Dutch New York, which has had such a strong foothold in this region, even though it was a relatively brief period. And so we always choose honorees, and this year's honorees are Joan Davidson and Ruth Piwonka. Joan was selected because she is the state commissioner for the Quadricentennial, and also has been a great supporter of the Columbia County Historical Society traditionally. And Ruth, of course, is the county chair and also former executive director of the Columbia County Historical Society, and I always think of this as Ruth's house. She is the expert on the house, has done most of the research, the furnishing plans, and all of that. And so we're very excited for this year's First Columbians to bring our members and friends right to this property and get to see it. At First Columbians, which will be on June 6th at 5:30 here on the grounds, we begin with a cocktail party, and there'll be a tent out in the back, and people will be able to tour the house. And that is from 5:30 to 7:30. And after that, some of our guests will be going to dinners in private homes throughout the county. And tickets are available for both for the cocktail party and for the dinners. And it is our primary benefit, so it's a very important opportunity for the society. One other thing we're doing at the Historical Society to celebrate the Quadricentennial is, in addition to our regular tours of the Lukas Van Alen House, we will also be giving specialized tours with Ruth Piwonka, the specialist on the house, where she will take visitors on a more in-depth tour of the house to really get a specialist's perspective on the architecture and the material culture, and to contextualize what this house means in terms of the greater Dutch history of the county.
Ruth generously provided ccSCOOP with a preview of the tour that she gives at the Lukas Van Alen House.
This house was built by Lukas Van Alen. He was one of a family of 9 children who were second-generation Dutch residents of this area. His house, there certainly were more houses like this around here at one time. There are 2 or 3 that still survive from this period. His sister-in-law, Maria Mulder, and brother, Stephanus Van Alen, lived in a house that does still stand was quite like this one, that's just directly across the creek from here. Here on this table are several artifacts that are of interest. All of the things in the house have been collected to illustrate and to educate about Dutch life in general. Probably none of them have any specific history with the Van Alen family. This bowl is a 17th century bowl and is like one seen in Dutch paintings from the 17th century Netherlands. The candle, of course, was essential for after hours when things got dark. To the right is a brass chafing dish, and a small porcelain piece, or maybe a tin plate of some sort, would sit on top. Some of their foods were quite specialized and needed to be kept warm at the table as they were being served. The Dutch, one of the great artifacts that are found at most archaeological digs are stems, pieces of stems from tobacco pipes. This is a reproduction pipe. They were used not only in New York and by the Dutch, but they were also used in Virginia, New England, and elsewhere in the colonies. They were made in the Netherlands and part of the Atlantic trade that went on. It was tobacco, of course, that brought many settlers to America in the first place. We're in what is interpreted as the best room And it was a room set aside for special occasions and the entertainment of guests. Here we have printed textiles, which were more elegant, Delftware, and actually there's one Chinese plate up there as well. The beautiful Delftware was made in the Netherlands, in the city of Delft, and it was done in emulation of blue and white Chinese porcelain. Around the tile, or around the hearth, are tiles that are also from the Netherlands, and they're 17th century tiles that were a gift from the Dutch embassy at the time the house was restored. And they depict different children's games and are quite charming and suggestive of social life of the times. We're in a room now that is the north room, the north end of the house, and one that's interpreted as one for work, based on different artifacts in here. Also perhaps used as a kind of family room. One of the important features of a Dutch household was its Dutch Reformed religion. The Dutch published, beginning in the late 17th century, large Bibles that were profusely illustrated with different engraved scenes of Bible history. One of these is here. They're very interesting. So that's accommodated by a document box, which is back here in the corner, and family records and papers, perhaps a will would have been kept there as well. It was customary also to have, for ornament, partly for show, carpets on the table, and it would have been an impressive thing if a visitor, someone called to pay a debt, perhaps that he might have owed, to come into a room in a big chair, the man sitting here, and this beautiful carpet before him.